Good morning and welcome to the Buckeye Hills Regional Council GIS Day 2020, which we've creatively themed what we've done at home because we spent most of this year at home, as I'm sure many people have. So we just want to kind of talk about some of the activities that we've gotten up to as far as GIS and data goes, and hopefully y'all will find it pretty interesting. So presenting today are me, Jason Piles. I'm the GIS coordinator for Buckeye Hills, as well as my colleague, Drew Sexton, our GIS specialist. Say hello, Drew.
Hello.
Thank you. Our contact information is here and also at the end of this presentation. So if you see anything interesting or intriguing here, give us a shout and we'd be happy to talk to you about it. Really want to thank our sponsor for this meeting and presentation, Hall. They were very kind enough to sponsor this, so we want to thank Hall for that. So, who's Buckeye Hills? You probably know us if you're here, but if you don't, we're regional council governments that covers 8 counties in southeastern Ohio. You can see them pictured down there in the corner. So we work primarily with elected officials and other members of the community, nonprofits, to help and help them in ways that maybe they don't have the capacity to help themselves. We have several divisions you see listed there. Today, we're going to be talking about mapping and data specifically, but mapping and data helps to support all of our community development efforts here at Buckeye Hills. So our goal, improve the quality of life for residents in Southeast Ohio by strengthening the social and economic climate of the region. So how does GIS help us do that? Well, this year we made several new web maps that at least some people have gotten pretty excited about. Our first one here is this road bicycle comfort map. So let me first show you where you can find these. You can find a lot of our data stuff at buckeyehills.org/data-center. There's a link to it at the bottom of every Buckeye Hills page on our website. But you can also find it here on our ArcGIS Online gallery, where we have our top 4 most frequented viewers, as well as all the ones that we feel like are interesting enough or useful enough to put right on the front page. So let's talk about our road bicycle comfort map. When you go, you'll see this disclaimer that explains kind of how we built the data and some things you might find on the map. So our goal here was to, with data, determine what roads that are legal to ride a bicycle on, so no interstates here, would be the most comfortable for a cyclist to ride on. We did that using the number of lanes a road has, the speed limit of the road, as well as known traffic counts for the road. Now, we don't have that information for every single road, so we did have to do some assuming for some of the roads. But what we were trying to do is get a first pass idea based off of those environmental factors about the likely comfort level of a given road. It's our hope that users will comment on areas where this information is lacking, so we can add some real world input to this and build something that is both data driven as well as experience driven. It's also our hope in the future to add some elevation components to this. You know, if you're from this area, you might know that we got a lot of hills. and that will definitely impact the potential comfort level of a given cyclist. But that's a little bit more difficult to work into this than the information we had. We also, at this moment, are not including bike trails on this. While we do have a significant amount of both road bike as well as mountain bike trails within the region, the goal here was really to focus on the road network and that concept of accessing things via bike, using a bike for transportation and not necessarily for recreation. So it operates just like Google Map. You can just zoom in. Pretty much every road here should be classified. So you can kind of get an idea going around here about the potential comfort level you might have riding on some of these roads. And I mean, that's kind of it. It's pretty straightforward. You can search for a location up here. We got a little legend down here that gives you some idea about what our classification levels were. We just chose these 3 levels to make it as simple as possible. And we really wanted to focus on that comfort rather than suitability. We aren't making any kind of judgment about the quality of the pavement or anything. We're saying, given the data that we have, here's the likelihood that a given rider might be comfortable riding on this road. Drew, do you have anything to add to this? You are the one who architected the data.
No, pretty much exactly like you said. This is something that we're hoping to get a lot of input from cyclists, enthusiasts, and the likes who would get a lot of use out of this map. So hopefully people are going to find it useful. And also, in addition, if people are interested in a print map, I know that Jason has recently developed a pretty cool looking print map that somebody had requested we do. So that's available upon request as well. And eventually we will implement the elevation element and hopefully give a more in-depth view of what the comfort level would be on these bike roads.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. We have, I was actually really impressed by how well this data transitioned to a pretty high level. It was a county-based map on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So it's a standard letter size sheet of paper. I was really impressed by how well that came through and that it was fairly clear. So if your community would like to see this data, we have the capacity to print at a number of levels, and would be happy to talk to you about that. And if you have direct input into making this data more accurate, we also want to hear from you. Okay, and so next, Drew is going to talk about the Wi-Fi Hotspots map that we've been working on.
Indeed, thanks, Jason. So let me grab the screen share really quickly. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we had kind of recognized an issue. Well, we've always had this ongoing issue here in our region with inadequate broadband access. And that was sort of, that was elevated with the pandemic that had occurred. And students particularly were not getting great access to internet in their homes. And they needed to do assignments sometimes for telehealth things. People don't get great at internet. So it's very important for us to try and help identify adequate and viable Wi-Fi hotspot locations throughout our 8-county region. And we've done a little bit of research. There's a lot of national resources for this sort of thing. And if you go to a lot of those, they actually are kind of deserts in our area. There's not a lot of information at all, if any, or if it's even accurate or up to date. So we endeavored to do this because we felt like it was important. And so, basically what this is you can come to this application, and if you were looking for a public Wi-Fi hotspot in the region, you could come to this map, and what you can do is you can use this cool tool. It's called Find Hotspot Location, right? And what this will do is, sorry, I'm on a laptop, so this is a little bit of a tinier screen here. But what it'll allow you to do is you can come and drop a point on the map, and you can set this little slider here, and you can adjust what the distance is, and it'll tell you what the nearest libraries are. So, or not libraries, but Wi-Fi hotspots. Currently, these libraries are some of the only spots that have been input, but so that's why you see a whole lot of those. Again, over here, you could hit this little tool to go back to the full screen view. Another thing too, there's a lot of information if you scroll down here about this application and how you can add a hotspot to the location, to this map. And to do that, currently you would come over here and you click this add hotspot. And well, first let's get to a better view of where the hotspot would actually be. So we'll go here, and I know for sure that there is a hotspot at the Wings, etc. in Marietta, Ohio. Frequent there a lot. So let's see if we can type that in, and the address comes up right there. You can type an address, or you can put a location in there. And once you zoom down in there, once you get to a certain level, you should have seen that the aerial view would come on.
So we gotta get a little bit closer there.
Yeah. So yeah, zoom in a little bit closer. And as you do that, you'll see the aerial come on. And what you'll want to do is, once you know that this is the location, I'm positive that is the Wings, etc. in Marietta, Ohio. So you click this tool, you can add a new feature here. Click it right there and add it. So a little pop-up will come up and it'll ask you to enter some information. You can just type in what the location is. You can give the address. We'll just say Marietta, Ohio for now. Hours of operation, Monday through Friday. You'll want to add, obviously, 8 a.m., that kind of thing, to whatever their open to close is. You probably don't want people hanging out in their parking lots after business hours. You can type in a little address there. Put in my whatever. Some of the stuff is required, so if you don't enter it, it won't let you move through. So is there parking? We want to know if there's parking available. You want to know if the Wi-Fi is secured or not. You want to know if what the name is for the secured network, and you need to know what the password is. You want to add some information about if it's accessible from the parking lot. And once you enter that information, just throw that in there. Throw this, and it should, just like that, add to the map. So, and now other people should be able to access that location as well. So if anybody were to come in here and use this tool, or another way you could search for a site is if you wanted to, you could pop up this little attribute table and you could kind of see all of the sites that are in here. You could come in here and sort it by address. We could probably throw some other fields in there that would make it possible for people to sort this by county and just make it a little bit easier to locate where things are at. And that's pretty much that, Jason, if you wanted to take that.
Do you want to talk about our improvements?
Yes, I'm sorry, guys. So recently we came across a really cool example of another way to kind of streamline adding properties to, or adding locations to the hotspot map. Currently it's kind of a little clunky when you have to click on the map and, you got to read through here and kind of learn what you need to do to add the hotspot. But we've got this little survey that you can click on this little tab here. And when you come in, you can find your location here. And it'll add that spot to the map. And then again, you can enter in, for example, if it's a Burger King, you can type in a Burger King. You can put the address in there, the hours of operation, what the phone number is, let people know if there's parking available, is the Wi-Fi secured, what the name is for the Wi-Fi network, what the password is, and whether or not you can access it from the parking lot.
It's all the same information, right? It's just a little bit, hopefully, easier to work around.
Yeah.
We're able to add in As you saw, like the descriptive text, it explains like what we're asking for, why we're asking for that. We're having some issues. We literally just had this thought. We came across something that was doing something similar, and we're like, oh, this is how we need to be capturing these Wi-Fi hotspots. And we're having a little bit of issues connecting this survey to our existing data. So we haven't rolled it out yet. But if you're used to going to the Wi-Fi hotspots map, that location might change, and expect to see these tabs appearing in the near future with an easier way to add hotspots. We're hoping that that will sort of increase the engagement with that web map.
Indeed, and like Jason said, once you, it should be easier to add stuff through the survey, and then it will add this to the map, and then again, people can find it just like using the tools on here and things like that. So some of this will change a little bit. It's mostly related to the back end data, but yeah, it'll be pretty easy for us to transition, but expect to see that kind of change from what you would normally see it as now to what you see here.
Thank you, Drew. Let me try to take this back from you. Hopefully that worked. So, other big thing everybody knows about our current pandemic situation. By now, almost everybody's seen some kind of dashboard or map depicting some kind of information. So, of course, in the early days, we had to get involved on that as well. This will actually be turning off soon. I was about to turn this off for a little while until I remembered that I'd already agreed to talk about it today, because there's been some changes to how Department of Health outputs their data, such that it has broken the script I wrote that updates this thing. So it says it'll update every day, and it has not updated in a while. But you can see what we were trying to do here. Map of relative, concentrations, caseload changes, and total cases, sex by age, hospitalizations, and death breakdowns, as well as timelines and pie charts. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. It taught me a lot about using dashboards and stuff like that, but this needs some pretty serious tweaking, so I'm going to be turning it off. I'm not too concerned about that, because what I would like to point you to, there's a link in here that will take you to, if I can get to it without the Zoom information blocking me, the Ohio Department of Health's dashboard, which has improved quite a bit and has a tremendous amount of detail and is actually updated on a regular basis. So they have this dashboard, which is the original one that I knew about, as well as this one might be the one that you're a little bit more familiar with and is a little bit easier to get to. If you go to coronavirus.ohio.gov and click the Ohio Public Health Advisory System, you'll see this dashboard, which is Tableau driven and is very powerful, with every county, as well as a series of dates for data comparisons. And it's a really powerful, useful tool. You can download the data directly. It's just really good stuff. So I would point you here rather than ours, but I'm pretty happy with what we've done, and do want to sort of revive that, perhaps now at a regional level, really looking at how it's impacted the region, our 8 counties specifically. When I started that, there wasn't too many, in my experience, visually appealing Ohio ones, and I was able to get the entire state. But now that we've been in this for quite some time, I think it's a little bit more potent and interesting to look at our region specifically, and how we're weathering under that. I would point you toward here. There's some really good stuff here. This thing is really powerful and has a tremendous amount of information on it. And I'm glad to give them a shout out.
And I'd also like to add to Jason that the resource that we created, I think a lot of that information has developed there at the ODH on their website, to include many of those cool tools that you just showed. And I think that like the COVID dashboard that we had at one time was probably a little bit more robust of a resource in some ways, because the dashboard that they've had was has been in development, and it's pretty amazing right now. The one that the ODH has is probably one of the best in the country.
I have been told that Ohio is one of a very few states that has made the availability of that data very, very good. There's a lot of times that Ohio does really well on this on data of this sort. We know from experience that in general, the state makes data really available, especially at the transportation level. And I'm glad to see it's also true at this impact level. So the last one I kind of want to talk about as far as new web maps isn't actually all that new, but we've rebuilt it. So we've had a partnership with the ODOT, the Ohio Department of Transportation District 10, to put their right-of-way information online. They went on a big effort to scan pretty much all, I believe, of their right-of-way documentation, and they've connected all up into a GIS backend. And several years ago now, they asked us to put it online so anybody could access it. So what you see here are those records. And if you click on any stretch of road, you can go to the directory about the road. You can click here and actually access the right-of-way sheet directly, a scan of that. There are comments sometimes and additional documentations. That doesn't always exist, but sometimes it does. And again, you can actually, hopefully this works, yes, access the entire directory for the road. And you can even like navigate around in here and access quite a bit of their scanned information. So we were hosting that on our own server. We were planning on turning off that server this year, and this viewer was really giving us a headache. This is gigabytes of data that we were no longer going to be able to handle as easily. And we just really weren't sure about how to recreate this with the tools that we had. Getting a little bit technical here. We actually figured out a way to store all of this on Amazon's S3 cloud. So that's where all of the data is. There's a little kind of hack you do to get these file listing setups to work this way. So you can kind of click around and view the different file pieces and build these links in. But it allows us to host the web map on our ArcGIS Online, but not put those gigabytes of PDF data up there and avoid having to deal with the attachment concept that they have there. So we're really happy that we were able to recreate this. I think that when there are future updates, there have been several updates over the life of this, that this should be easier for us to deal with. And it's definitely, having taken it off of our direct server, been a tremendous help to us. So we're glad to continue this partnership with District 10 and provide this information. And I have to say, like, the cost has also been extremely reasonable. And if you want to hear about that, you can come contact me, and we'll talk about what the cost experience has been hosting all of this information on Amazon's S3. Get back to my presentation here. So we also do a significant number of data requests every year. This year is no different. These data requests are pretty wide ranging. As you can, here are some examples. A lot of them do involve maps. I mean, that's what people come to us for. Some of them, as you can see, involve pretty complicated outputs. Some of them are far less complicated. Some of them we're putting our branding on. Some of them are just little graphics for people to use. If you've seen, excuse me, Washington County's cable buses have started doing on-demand service with this zone concept. They came to us to help them build the map. So you can see that map in the background here with the townships colored in. I mean, that was pretty straightforward. We also, we do some more complicated things like this map over here that shows all the number of employees within a project area. Drew, did you want to talk at all about the, trying to find it here. Okay, yeah, so the well roads map.
Yeah, so the Monroe County auditor approached us about a grant project that she was working on. She was applying to.
That was the engineer, actually.
Oh, sorry. Did I say auditor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The engineer approached us and was looking to apply for oil and gas road grant. So she needed us to kind of identify how many wells were within a specific distance of that of those roads. And so down there in the lower right-hand corner, you can see a little bit of the output from that. So we were able to help her provide the mapping and spatial analysis for that. And it ended up helping her to successfully get awarded the grant. So that was a good thing.
Sorry, here. I was not looking at the...
That's fine. I can talk a little bit more about some of the other things and then like...
Well, sorry, we have a couple questions in the chat that I missed when we were on that section. So
I saw that. I figured we'd just answer those in the end, maybe.
At the end, okay. Well, being nice and professional here, just screwing it all up. We can, we'll answer those questions at the end. Did you have something else you want to talk about, Drew?
No, I was just gonna fill some more time and just talk about a little bit more of the data request kind of things that we do. Like, we've still been able to support some of the community water associations and such working from home, and so that's been good. We've done the oil and gas stuff for some of the auditors. They've got the well tax calculations that we were able to help them do. So yeah, kind of sticking with the theme, we're still working pretty well at home, accomplishing things.
I want to hit on that while a lot of the stuff that we do is map based, that's pretty obvious. As you can see, there is one thing in here, as Drew mentioned, was the table based. Our outputs for county auditors for horizontal oil and gas wells is best consumed sort of in this table. We do a lot of GIS processing to that data before it gets into that shape. But a map would not be very useful to them. If you come to us, we're going to try to figure out what is the best method to deliver your information. So just because you come asking for a map doesn't mean that that's what you'll get. We'll try to make sure that it's the right thing.
Yeah, and like along with that, like. Obviously, we're not graphic designers, but we do make a lot of graphics that incorporate maps. So it's something that we spend not too insignificant amount of time helping people do.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be a legend and a north arrow and stuff like that, right? Like if there's something with map data that you need to show as a graphic, like we can help with that. I do have a related question here, asking, who can ask us for data. So in general, as long as the data is public, just about anybody can request information. Our primary requesters have been other governmental entities, communities, counties, and like other like nonprofit organizations. But we have had some requests from private entities. Really kind of depends on what the workload is and what you're asking for. We have access to a lot of data that isn't our own. Some of the community water information that we've collected, that while we use it for general benefit, we do need to run through proper channels before we would distribute any of that. But anybody can ask us for data. Again, our contact information is at the beginning and we'll be at the end again here. And we'll work with you either such that we can produce it, or we'll figure out how best to get that information to you, or work something out so that we can satisfy your need. There is a limit, sadly, where we have to work out some kind of contract effort for the amount of effort that we're going to put forward on a project. But just about anybody can ask for just about anything, and we'll try to make it work within reason. Trying to see if there's anything else here that I really wanted to point out. But I think you can see here that there's a wide variety of designs and concepts that we're putting out here. We want to, if you need a map for something in particular, if you're applying for grant funding or something like that, and you need a map for that, like we want to do it for you, and we want to do it as good as possible. We do take a certain amount of pride in our design capabilities and being able to make things that are attractive and informative, make things that people want to see and want to use. That's a pretty big goal for us. Before we get to any more questions, there's just kind of conclusions, there we go. So I'll repeat myself. If you see something interesting, please reach out to us. We want to tell you about what we've done. We'll tell you how we did it. There's not really any trade secrets here. If you see something interesting, you want to know where we got the data for it, you want to know how we built it, we're happy to tell you. Are you curious about GIS? Do you want to, do you already know something? Do you want to learn some more? There's some other options here. ERISA, our professional organization, there is an Ohio chapter. They're having a workshop on December 9th. Did you want to talk any more about that, Drew?
Oh, yeah. We've continued to be active in our professional organizations and involved as Buckeye Hills and the state and regional GIS organizations. So the Ohio chapter of ERISA is hosting a workshop December 9th. I believe it's from 9:30 to 3:15. So I believe there's 4 presentations, so that'll be really cool. 2 of them are Esri presenters and 2 of them are consultants. It's going to be pretty cool.
Do you remember any of the topics in those? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, one of them is about Hub. So the Esri presentation specifically, one of them is going to go over sort of the Esri Hub. It's kind of their new, community engagement, data repository tool in some ways. I guess it's kind of a mishmash of those.
It's hard to describe, yeah.
Yeah, it's relatively new. So, I mean, Jason can probably agree with this, that we're just as curious to learn more about it as probably anybody else is. And then there's another presentation. So that first one will be done by Ryan Selman of Esri. And then the second one from Esri will be done by Adam Carno. It's going to be about GIS managers emerging as GIS leaders. That's usually always a pretty good one. We've got one from, I believe, a consultant named William and Bennett, and they are presenting on team working through a national emergency, kind of fitting. And then we have FME, Safe Software Feature Manipulation Engine. They're going to be presenting on integration 101 with feature manipulation engine software.
That's pretty cool, because I know that we don't use that FME quite a bit, but there's a lot of engineering, there are professional and consulting firms that use that quite a bit, and I don't know if a lot of our people are exposed to it.
If you use big data, like it's almost a necessary tool. I know ODOT uses it pretty regularly. So,
and then on December 2nd, the AOGDP, the Appalachian Ohio Geospatial Data Partnership, is having a virtual meeting. Contact us to figure out how to get in on that if you're interested. So this is similar to professional organizations, probably putting it a little bit too formally, but it's a group of GIS folks working in several different levels of government and in support organizations who are all in the Appalachian region. So we've all got kind of similar constraints and issues, and we just try to meet on a regular basis about 3 or 4 times a year, and just talk about what we've been working on, what's been bothering us, anything we found that's interesting, stuff like that. We're in a little bit of a transition period at the moment, so we're trying to figure out exactly what we're doing, but our next meeting is December 2nd. And we've got a couple things people have already mentioned that they want to talk about and discuss. And so we'll just kind of do a little roundtable there. It's from about 10 to noon, just a couple hours. We have a lot of people that attend that, so it usually takes about that long for everyone to sort of say their piece. But it's a good group, wide variety of experiences and skill levels. So especially if you're in the Appalachian region, like and you do anything with GIS, we would encourage you to attend. Even if you don't got something to say, you'll probably learn something. We got a lot of smart people talking about a lot of interesting things. A lot of them don't realize it's as interesting as it is. So would encourage that. As well, there's all sorts of GIS training opportunities out there. Drew and I are particular fans of Esri, one of the primary software designers, developers for GIS software, has these MOOCs, massive open online courses. I forget which order the O's are in. Those are totally free. I'm doing one right now about data science. They require relatively minimal time investment, usually 2 to 3 hours a week, and no monetary investment. And they have a couple there that even get pretty basic, so they're really worth checking out if you want to know more about GIS or a particular aspect of GIS, and especially Esri software, because obviously they give you access to their software and all the bells and whistles, and try to make you a buyer. Like that's the big one. There's lots of other resources online, and if you want to know more about that, you can hit us up as well. We'll try to point you in the right direction, try to put you in try to point you towards something that you'll find useful. So that marks the official end of our presentation. We have a couple more questions I want to get to. Our contact information is here, all the Buckeye Hills social media users, whatever the handles are down there, so you can see those. But if anybody has any other questions, they can just pop them in the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer them. So we had a couple questions here about the Wi-Fi map. We might want to bring that back up depending on what these are. So just want to know that when somebody adds a Wi-Fi hotspot, is it reviewed before it's added to the map for accuracy? No. We wanted this to be as sort of engaging as possible, even though we knew that that presented some level of risk, both in accuracy and in quality. But it was kind of more important to us that that people be able to see the direct benefit of their efforts. So they enter the information and the item shows up.
I will point out that there is a measure in place. There in the left panel on the first screen, you can scroll down and there's information about emailing us to report issues. And then again, I've opened it up. We do frequent spot checks on there just to make sure that like spelling is accurate, zip codes and things like that look to be accurate, and that spellings of addresses and things don't look to be awkward. That's the biggest thing. As far as verifying the Wi-Fi passwords and things like that, we kind of it's primarily we're relying on the community engagement for that. But we frequent lots of establishments in the community ourselves, and we will be checking things as frequently and as often as we can on our own. And that's kind of the best system we have for that, because we don't really have the resources ourselves to call and verify the potential hundreds of locations that might be added to here. And then obviously everybody knows this within their own homes that, Wi-Fi passwords change frequently. Networks can change. So that's another thing that would be a little bit of a moving target for us to try to keep tabs on. But again, there's ways for people to initiate those changes and for us to make that happen.
Yeah, and it's sort of another excuse to get people to interact with us, right? So they can add points to the map as well as correct information. We didn't want the public to be able to directly access existing points. But we knew that if we added another barrier to their creation, that would make it that much more difficult and less likely that somebody would contribute.
Yeah.
So,
and then I would just add along with the community engagement thing, that's something we're interested in doing a lot more of. So if people have ideas for things that we can get interaction from, the citizens in the Buckeye Hills region, that's really what we're hoping to do with a lot of this stuff.
That's a really good point. Yeah, we want to have more of these kind of crowdsourced data sets, but we only know what we're interested in, right? And that hasn't always translated into what people want to give us data for. So if there's something that you think would be that people would be interested in contributing to, we really want to hear about it, because it's relatively low overhead for us to build some of these things, and if we can get something that will have a lot of engagement, we're very interested in that. We got another question here. So has there been a push on area schools to encourage use of this map for students that are remote learning? I know that we haven't exactly done that ourselves. We have promoted the map itself more with the goal of building it out, mostly because with the level of data on there, I'm not tremendously comfortable with declaring it a resource yet. It's really close to that, and I think if we had more people filling in existing locations to sort of fill in some of those dark spots that I know are out there. Like I would feel a lot more comfortable telling people that it was a resource. But that has not been something that we have actively pursued.
I know it's there was a press release and it was out in the news, but you know, I don't know if anybody's ever contacted like the superintendent of the, you know, Washington County schools or whatever and said, hey, there's this resource available and you can contribute to it or whatever. So maybe that's something we could try to do.
Yeah, that's a good next step. And maybe once we've got the easier the survey data adding process built in, we'll have a reason to push it back out, and we can kind of focus on those areas. I'm concerned that a certain amount of our lack of uptake has been the relatively difficult way to add points, and hopefully making that easier, we'll see an increase in that data creation. All right. We are now fresh out of questions. We have covered everything, and we are only 10 minutes short of the hour. So if no one's got any other questions for us,
we've got someone says in the chat they have a question.
Oh yeah, type it in there. We'll give you a moment. Ooh, how could we engage local schools to learn GIS? So we actually do a bit of that already in partnership with, excuse me, with some of the career connected learning institutions that we're involved in. We have we've gone to several area schools to sort of talk about GIS both as a career path and as a skill set to add to an alternative career path. We've also we built an augmented reality sandbox with the goal of putting that in front of students. That has been a little bit less successful than we had hoped, because it's really hard to move 200 pounds of sand and an 8-foot pole around. But we're working on improving that. And although it's not quite the student levels that we want to, the efforts have resulted in a local college building a similar sandbox for their outreach efforts. So, excuse me. So that's definitely been effective. I'm looking at figuring out how to build a much smaller one so I can take it into schools a little bit easier. Want something that can actually go into my car and not require a full-size pickup to move around. So you know, we've been able through our efforts to sort of bring that bring discussion of GIS into the classroom. It can be a little bit difficult just because of the technical nature of it. Because go ahead, you can say something.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, there's also been a few times where we've had the ability to go in and help out on career days at some schools, and we'd set up a booth there in the gym and we bring a TV and do a little GIS there in front of some students, and that always seemed to get a lot of engagement out of people. But I don't know that we've been approached to do that in several years by any of the local schools. And then again, there in the chat, I put a couple resources there, and I apologize, I shared one twice because I couldn't see immediately when you share a link there. It looks like they all kind of run together and there's no space between them. So yeah, the first one there is just general resources, different things that students can do, or you know, K through 12 stuff in the classroom. And then the second resource is an actual blog where people are getting a little bit more in depth about some of the stuff. And I guess I would offer too that, you know, if there's anything in there that looks interesting or exciting, Jason and I are always willing to come, you know, help out and or put together some resources or materials that can help teachers easily, provide a lesson or something like that if that's what they wanted to do with the students.
I actually have a it's always developing, so I don't really want to show it, but I actually have an interactive story map that was designed for that purpose. I sometimes give it as a presentation to students, so it's got a lot more words than I would normally want in like a PowerPoint, because it's meant to also be used without my presence. So it has all the things that I'm trying to say on it. But it kind of gives you an overview about how, in particular, some of the more interesting ways that Buckeye Hills uses GIS, and just to try to give an idea to students of just about every level, what some of its capabilities are. Really stressing the concept that it's not about just maps and location. It's about the information tied to that location, stuff like that. That it's not always about outputting maps, as I was discussing earlier. Sometimes the answer is best expressed as a spreadsheet kind of thing. But if you're involved in a classroom and want to see that, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to share it. It's we're constantly iterating on that to try to make it as useful as possible. When I go talk to students and I see kind of how they react to stuff, I try to put things in there that they're actually interested in. The things that interest me, surprisingly enough, aren't what interests seventh graders. So it's been a little bit difficult sometimes to sort of get into the mindset of what's right for them. But I think we're hitting on something like that. And I mean, Drew, you and I have gone out a few times. I've gone out on my own several times to talk to all levels of students, high school, career days, down to third, fourth graders. So we're willing to talk about that locally. And if you're interested in sort of getting that into your schools and you're not in the Buckeye Hills region, we'd be happy to talk about some of the efforts that we've done and maybe some of the people that might be helpful to contact for you to try to make those connections.
Something also that I've always thought would be great in the schools is if there was somebody there that could be like a facilitator. If there was somebody who is a science teacher, somebody who's a social studies teacher, or somebody who works with like computer science in some ways that might have some loose interest in this sort of thing, then we could sort of guide them towards the resources and things that would help them.
That's where career connected learning entities come in, which we're working with one right now to help expand this both across the state and nationally. These concepts that we're calling entities that either career connected learning or business engagement with career awareness, which is what you're talking about. So it would be a middleman between people like us out in the working world and schools that would connect those interested teachers with the people that can provide the real world work information into the classroom. Sorry, just reading our comment here. Yeah, so you might actually have entities like this. We can try to figure out who they are and how to connect you together. We're fortunate that we have a pretty active, we're calling them BICA in our region that we've been working directly with for a while now. That is really trying to push this concept of putting people who are in the workforce into the classroom and getting students used to the fact that there's some pretty interesting careers out there that you probably never thought of. I know that I did not realize that people still needed to make maps and work with spatial data until I was more than 2 years into college. And I don't know where I would be if I had known about this as a young person. but I would have liked to have known about it ahead of time.
But so Jennifer, what district are you in?
Jennifer is in Florida.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, we can talk to you offline about some of the people that you might want to try to find the right kinds of people to talk at the school that might be able to connect you with the right kinds of people that would actually be interested in putting some of the information you have into classrooms.
Yeah, and through that, the community, there's a community for the K through 12 learning in the Esri. And if you connect with them, there's probably a lot of people in there that can, there's got to be somebody down there in the Florida area who's already doing these sorts of things. And they could probably even run over and do some tutorials or help out in that regard.
Yep. Well, I'm looking at the time. It looks like our hour is up. This is
games all conquered.
Yeah, this has been great. To all those that participated, to those that will view this later, hopefully, thank you for taking the time, spending it with us. I've left the final card up here this whole time. Our contact information is on there. We'd love to hear from you.
I will add my number is 7660.
Oh, I apologize. I'll take this opportunity to apologize to Drew. He is also a GISP, and I neglected to put that onto his name there. So since he's making a correction, I'll just go ahead and do the same, own up to that. Apologies.
You made my picture bigger than yours, so.
See, I didn't even realize it, and I was compensating. So thanks again to everybody participating. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your GIS day and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.